everybody. I'm an alcoholic. My name's Keith. By God's grace, Alcoholics Anonymous, full of people like you and a little bit of effort on my own. I've not taken a drink of alcohol, nor have I used any kind of narcotic since May 11th, 1976. And for that, I'm especially grateful. Thank you for inviting Sue and I back to Brazos. It's always good to be invited back. Anyway. And, I know so many people, and Sue and I are friends with so many people, and Donna talked about people that saved her life, and I knew them. Just so many people that touched my life. I got sober in Southern California, and that's where I was whenever it happened, and they captured me. I had been trying everything. I'm a joiner, and I've been trying everything, and I finally got captured and put me in a detox. And I owed $250,000 to people. You can't write them a letter and say, I'll send you $100 a month. I was supposed to deliver $250,000 worth of cocaine to San Francisco, and I got drunk about Santa Maria and hid it, forgot where I hid it. That's how I know I'm an alcoholic. I had problems, and so they captured me and put me in a detox in St. Joseph's Hospital down in Orange, the city of Orange, and Dr. Paul Oliger was my doctor. He'd just started, him and Dr. Zuska just started that detox, and they captured me and put me in there. And when I got out of there, Sue had gone to Al-Anon, and the kid had gone to Alateen, the dog had gone to Alley Dog, and the cat had gone to Alley Cat. So I was released. So I went as far away as I could get, and that was Midland, Texas. And I went to Midland and got a job trying to make some money. And so the early part of my first year and a half of my sobriety was over at Midland, Odessa, Big Springs, all around down there. So, I have some grassroots there. It's good. I'm at least a fifth generation alcoholic. My dad was an alcoholic, his dad was an alcoholic, and his dad was an alcoholic, and I didn't check any farther than that. That's enough. And it's not necessary to be an alcoholic family in order to be an alcoholic, but if you're a budding alcoholic, why, you grow up in an alcoholic home, it helps because there's alcohol. And mainly I share that because they all had character defects, and each one of them was a different type of an alcoholic, each one of those people. My dad was a lawyer. He's too smart to be an alcoholic. Had too much money to be an alcoholic. And so he didn't get sober till he was 62. But when he died, he had 27 years of sobriety. My granddaddy was the Justice of Peace, and he was a devil-may-care chap, and he was a gambler. His daddy was a flim-flam man, and anyway, all those different alcoholics' character defects kind of rolled downhill into me. I got to be the family's best, worst example. I had all of them, and that's what attracted Sue to me. Wasn't my good qualities, it was my character defects. She thought she could straighten me out. But I was locked up the first time in 1952 for driving under the influence and having hit and run, bodily injury, and leaving the scene of the accident, which was the beginning of my many driving under the influence, hit and run, bodily injury, leaving the scene of the accident. I did change one thing. The only bodily injury in the last few drunken drivings was me. I didn't hit anybody else or hurt anybody else, but I got in trouble a lot. I just, when I drink, something happens. It's like a war zone. It's just, stuff happens. There's people that wait for things to happen. There's people that watch things happen. And there's people that make things happen. And I'm a shaker and a baker and a candlestick maker. I make stuff happen. Wherever I go, I brought the band, I brought the booze, I brought the girls, I brought the party. And when you want to go home, go on. Because I'm going to keep it up. And I got married to a young lady whose father had a lot of money. I noticed that. My family had a lot of money, but they weren't giving me much, so I figured I might ought to marry into it. So I met this little gal, and her daddy had a lot of money, and we got married down in Galveston, had a big wedding, got all kinds of gifts. Shortly thereafter, I was in the Fort Worth jail one more time for driving under the influence, leaving the scene of an accident, bodily injury, hitting the cop with a tire iron, and a few other, miscellaneous things. And I was in jail, and my father-in-law come to see me, and he said, I got a lot of money. And I said, I know. He said, you know why I have a lot of money? I said, no. He said, because I don't make bad investments. And you're a bad investment. And they annulled me. I didn't even know what that was. Today, I know it was the beginning of my abandonment issues. Well, as a result of that little incident, I was driving a car. I didn't know whose it was. And it had some burlap bags in the trunk with some outside issues in them. And Fort Worth police didn't like that. So I had to go to Huntsville and rodeo. Every time I was locked up, it wasn't bad. It was good. Because when I was locked up, people knew where I was. And I could kind of conform to some discipline. It didn't make me a habitual criminal. It actually gave me some insight to life. I found out one thing: it don't make no difference whether you're pitching or catching, you're still playing ball. You'll figure that out in a minute. That kid from Soledad's grinning. I don't know, where are you? Anyhow, I got out and I went home because that's what I do. And I didn't have a driver's license or a job or money or nothing. They give me $100 and a new suit, and I bought a jug of whiskey and got on the train, and I called my two very best friends, Oily and Goose, and I said, I'll be coming into Amarillo on the midnight train. And they went down there a couple of days early and got some moonshine and a jar full of bennies. And by the time I got there, they'd run the radio down and listen to Wolfman Jack, Del Rio, Texas. That'll date a couple of you. But when I got off the train, I was drunk. I had done my four-step, my very first four-step. I thought back on my life, and I thought, I need to stay out of them honky-tonks. I need to stay away from them sick women. You can line 10 women up against the wall over there, and I'll get the sickest one out of the bunch every time. Got to stay out of them fast cars. Stay away from them guys that just like to fight. And if if you get in jail, they'll come get you out. And if they can't get you out, they'll get in there with you. Just good old boys. I got off the train. There was Oily and Goose, and I took a shot of White Lightning. That stuff in a fruit jar, it looks like white gasoline. And it didn't have no umbrellas or no olives or nothing in it, maybe a dead fly or two. Took a shot of that, took a handful of bennies, swallowed that, it blew me back against the wall, and I fell to my knees and jumped up and said, let's go, the party's on. The anticipation. I love the anticipation. The anticipation. That's an addiction in itself. We went down to Wolf Creek, and they had a dance down Wolf Creek, and the cops didn't come down there. I walked in the door, and it was just an old barn, and the band was having an intermission. I took a Coke ball, rolled it up, and hit the stage. I said, "Let the meanest sucker in the house bring that back. I'm home." And a couple of drunks headed off the wall. I hit the first guy leading the charge because he's too stupid to know any different. And then I ducked into the woman's restroom. I may be sick, but I ain't stupid. I ain't going to stay around for a fight like that. So I ducked in the woman's restroom. There's a lady standing there. And I said, "Tell me when the fight's over." So I went in there, and pretty soon she stuck her head in. Said, "You can come out now. Fight's over." And I came out. And the band was playing, and she was handy, and I'm a quick study. I asked her for a dance, and one quick dance, I found out she had a car, driver's license, place to stay, money in the bank, none of which did I have. I said, "Where you been all my life, baby?" She said, "Where you been?" I said, "I just got out of prison." She said, "I just got out of an unwed mother's home." I said, "Why don't we go together and give two people a break?" I knew it was love because the rocks in my head fit the holes in hers, you know. We dated for 2 weeks, and they nicknamed us Hatchet and Hammer. It had to be love, but it was just too painful to be anything else. People said it wouldn't work, and that was over 51 years ago. What do they know? Is that odd or is that God, huh? How could they possibly make it that long? You know? And we started that journey. She said she was pregnant. I don't remember that conversation. I must have been crossing over the invisible line when we talked about that. I said, "Push the car around the block, and if you don't miscarriage, I'll marry you." That's what all they told me to say. And she was healthy. She was healthy, had good teeth. And so we got married. Now I had a little girl. And I don't know how to be a husband or father, really. I'm a thief. Really, I'm a thief. And I don't have much guilt except right when I get caught. And then it's very short-lived because you got to figure out how to get out of trouble. You can't sit around and worry about it. So here we are. And, it's like Easter, and I need to get the kid an Easter bunny. I get the one with ringworm. Everybody gets ringworm except the alcoholic because we're soused, we don't get nothing. Pick out the dog. I get the kid a dog. Get the craziest dog. Got a 120-pound German Shepherd dog that hated me. I don't know how I could have possibly miscalculated that. I took that dog to obedience class. And that obedience class guy, he had a long leash and a little dog, and he let that dog run way out there, and then he said heel, and he jerked that leash, and that little tiny dog flung back over there, and my German Shepherd attacked him. And we got kicked out of obedience class. My little girl could crawl all over that dog, and he never did nothing, just lay there. Get a cat. The cat's always got a pup tail. My disease, it affected everybody. And I got in trouble, and my friend named Latham Shorty told me that I could get a job on a ranch 40 miles west of Long Beach. That's ocean. But oh, ye of little faith. I took off, loaded them up, put them in the station wagon, put everything in the trailer. Looked like the grapes of wrath. We took off. It was insane. And it took us 30 days to get there. From Oklahoma City to Los Angeles, 30 days. because I stopped in the petrified forest, took a couple of animal tranks and sat out there and looked at a piece of petrified wood for 2 or 3 days. Finally made it into California. My drunken uncle got me a house. Nobody lived in it for a while. Got a deal on it, moved right in there. There was a motorcycle gang on one side and a bunch of hippies on the other. Now, I ain't never seen no hippies. I've been down Fort Worth, Dallas. I was bandito bad, but I don't know about them hippies over there. I go over there, they're dropping acid, taking their clothes off, naked, laying in the front yard, watching the sun come up and go down. I'm a joiner. They said, look out, you'll have a bad trip. You just should have come off the one I just did coming from Oklahoma City. That's a bad trip. I dropped some acid and went to see 2001. Yeah, I'm a joiner. But I got in trouble a lot. Wherever I go, there I am. Where I come from up in Texas Panhandle, you could drink and drive. As long as you wasn't drunk, you could have a cold beer and drive around. You know, in Los Angeles, you can't do that. I don't know when they passed that law. And I started getting in trouble. Got a job, went to work, and I'd go off, and I was working in the oil fields. I'd come home, bring all my friends with me. You know, all the guys that didn't want to go home and fight with their wife, they'd come over and watch me fight with mine. They'd line up behind me, and she'd be up there yelling and screeching like a screech owl, yelling and waving a butcher knife around, and my guys behind me, they'd say, get her, get her. I said, step to the head of the line, Ace. Come on up here. Be my guest. Take a little of this. Yeah. I always brought all kinds of, people home with me. Come on over to my place. If I can't get in a fight in the bar, I'll go over and fight with my wife. I mean, we fought. We fought. She never fought fair, though. She never did. She'd bite, kick, scratch. I'd show up Monday with a bunch of people, and I didn't have any idea whatsoever what had happened to me, and people are looking at me. How did I get all them strange marks all over me? It's hard to explain. It made hickeys, buddy. And it was just insane all the time. I mean, really, really violent. We're two violent people. And she would yell and scream, and the neighbors, I'd try to take her out, and we'd go be nice and go to a nice restaurant. We'd get in a big fight in there. And it would just fold over into the whole restaurant would be fighting. If we'd go to a bar, I said, we're going to have a nice Sunday afternoon. We're going to go to this little bar, have a shrimp cocktail. Some waitress would come up and pinch me on the ear, and she'd slap her. And the fight would be on. The whole bar would be just demolished. We'd come out there and think, what happened? Every time we went somewhere, we'd go to people's house, and some little thing would come up. One guy said, I can't drink rum, I get mean. I pulled up a bottle of rum. I said, let's drink some rum and see. We tore that place down, went out front and tore the neighbor's place down. Wherever I drank, it was like a combat zone. And I was always getting thrown in jail. She would call the cops. I'd say, at least give me a 2-block running start. I was arrested 57 times for assault and battery and resisting arrest in a 10-block area of my house. That was before they shot you, Sometimes I'd get drunk and in jail 2 or 3 times in the same day. And she would have to go down and write hot checks. She'd be floating paper down there. Have all kinds of paper floating around town trying to get me out. And that was her job, And I'd get home, and there we'd go again, start all over again. I'd get on my knees and beg to get back in the house. My house was painted 4 different colors because I lost interest easy. Had good intentions, but lost interest easy. It wasn't really bad, a light green and dark green on that end, and the trim would be something. And of cream colored and a brown on the other end, you know, some, whatever you had at your house, wherever I was hanging out, you had some paint. I'd say, are you using that paint? No. I'll take it over to my house and we'll paint something over there. I had a Corvair and an Etzel antiques parked on the side of the house over on the neighbor's yard, you know. Little encroachment there. But the weeds grew up through the doors and the windows. It's a good place to stash stuff, you know. And parked it right by the side gate where the dog run was. The dog suffered. The dog would be in the dog run, and it would get bad over there, and I'd come home, and she'd have me locked out, and I'd jump up on the Edsel, jump over the fence, and land in the dog run. It hadn't been cleaned in about a week. I'm over there slipping and sliding. The dog's biting me, and I'm saying, it's your daddy. Come on. Don't you recognize Daddy? I'm home. Oh, man. It was a lot of work. A lot of work. And I would, you know, try to do right. I wanted to do right. I'd go get baptized. I got baptized in every church you can imagine. I'm a joiner. I'll go down and do it, you know, whatever. But I especially like the people on the bicycles that come to our house. Come over to the house to save us. I had all kinds of holes in the wall, and we go to Tijuana. We need to go to Tijuana and get some pictures. Well, the pictures down in Tijuana then, they didn't have no frames on them. And they were those felt ones, you know. So I'd hang them on the wall around different places, and later I'd say, well, it'd take about a week to get down to Tijuana and get them pictures and get back. And then I'd have to go get frames, so I'd get a deal on frames. The frames were bigger than the pictures. But if you hang it on the top of the picture, well, then it works. You've got a picture and a frame. It's got a lot of stuff on the bottom, and we'd get over there and get a little cranked out, and we'd get a Pentel pen and draw little pictures down there below the picture, you know. So when the people that come to save us, they'd be sitting across from them pictures, and they'd be trying to read all that stuff. Keep your mind on what you're doing here, man. Then soon I'd have a fight. We'd have a fight on top of the church people, and they'd go screaming out of the house, dragging their bicycle down the street, saying, don't ever go back. One time, we had these people going to come and save us, and soon I had a fight, and we had Electrolux vacuum sweeper, one of them little cigar things, had about a 10-foot hose and a couple of chrome things and doodad on the end. She grabbed that hose, started dragging that Electrolux around the house, banging stuff, swinging that chrome thing, and knocked all the windows out of the house. Trashed everything. So then she was tired, so we sit down. I better have a beer. And the church people come, and they look, they got up and knocked on the door, come on in. Well, I can't make amends for them things. You know, I mean, God knows. I was trying. I was really trying. She come home one day, and she said, I know what's wrong with you. You need to go to AA. I said, I thought it'd come to that. I knew it was going to come to that. So I called the guy today, and I found out where there's an AA meeting tonight over here in church. What had really happened was I went somewhere Friday. Saturday I got in a fight. The fight got out of hand, and somebody, it wasn't my friend, but he slapped me upside the head with a crescent wrench, almost tore my ear off. I'm over in the hospital in the jail ward with a blood-soaked earmuff on. Blood all over my wife beater and my cut-off shorts. I'm no identification. I'm traveling pretty light. I end up in front of the judge, and the judge, there you are again. And somebody out, you know, alcoholics in their moment of desperation. Donna said, I've been desperate. You know what that means for an alcoholic? Just before you're about to go down, you got a new idea. That's what that means. And out, I bloodied up, handcuffed, sitting out there, some guy come along passing out literature, and it was an AA pamphlet. And I said, can I have one of them? I held on to that thing when that judge says, well, I'm going to have to send you to jail for about a year. And I whipped that AA pamphlet out. What about this? Could I try AA? I didn't know what it was, but it was better than jail because I owe people in jail money. I may be sick, but I ain't stupid. I don't want to go to jail because I don't have the money to pay him. And so he sentenced me to AA. He had a guy come and take me and show me where that church was. Oh, Ivan Miller. He had 9 years sober. He looked like he's drunk. Droopy eyes. He was a machinist, and when he took stuff out of his lathe, it was heavy, and it'd go, so his arms were really long. Had no pickup with stuff rolling around the back. And he picked me up at court that day and says, I'm from AA. You want what I got? I'm thinking, I don't know. Ends up, Ivan started the meeting that is my home group today, Dog on the Roof. It's over 52 years old, and Ivan was the founder of Dog on the Roof, and it was called Dog on the Roof because it was a dog on the roof. But he didn't invite me to that meeting that day. He just took me home, showed me where that meeting was over in Placentia, and I'm laying on the couch, just bleeding out, had that blood-soaked earmuff on. My hair was all tore up. I was beat up. Sue comes home on her work car, baby poop brown Pinto station wagon, the family wagon. Didn't have no reverse, went down the road crooked, had a hole in the muffler. We didn't start out that low. We worked to get down that low. Yeah, we worked to get down there. And I'll tell you something about it, though. If you come from up here and you drink to down there, there's one thing you'll get. And we got out there. She said, we're going to that meeting. She got her butcher knife out. We got in that Pinto. Had the kid's hairs all looked like a wounded animal. Got the dog in there. The dog chewed all the hair off of his body everywhere his mouth had reached. The cat had a permanent puff tail. The inside of that Pinto, the windows had dog hair and cat hair all over it, ice cream. I'm sick. I'm bleeding out. We pulled away from that house, painted 4 different colors, that Corvair and Etzel over there, and she pulled up in front of this church. It had a big AA sign. And I remember looking at that AA sign thinking, well, if my friends see me going in here, they'll never have nothing to do with me again. That's called low-bottom snobbery. That's where I got down to some low-bottom snobbery. And she stuck me with that knife and said, what time's the meeting over? And I said, I think it's over at 10. She said, I'll tell you something, Ace. Your ass comes out of that door before 10, I'll gut you. I went to AA. I stayed in the room, too, because you got an insane woman circling the perimeter with a 12-inch butcher knife. Well, I didn't stay sober. I got drunk. As soon as I got a little trust and confidence, I got drunk. It never gets better. It always gets worse. And if you don't die, you're going to have to come back to AA. Yeah. If you don't die, you're going to have to come back to AA. And I came back to AA, and then I got drunk, and then I went somewhere else, and then I came back to AA the next few years. And I know what it's like to stand in my kitchen, got a bottle of vodka at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I look down the hallway, a little 9-year-old girl stands at the end of that hallway, and she's just looking at me. She didn't say nothing. She just wanted to know which direction I was going so she could go the other way. I turn around and I take a hit off that bottle, and when I look back, she's gone. She's gone. I know what it's like to be in my bathroom in the back of the house, and I'm doing my next best thing, and I look in the mirror, and a little 10-year-old girl's looking through the hole in the door in the bathroom where I probably stuck my foot, and her eyes caught mine for just a second. She didn't say, Daddy, what are you doing? Please don't beat me and Mommy. She didn't say nothing, but just a moment in time, her eyes caught mine, and I knew something screaming inside of me. Something screaming inside of me 2 inches behind my belly button. Whatever I had put in me at that moment, whenever I looked there and caught that little girl's eyes, whatever was going on inside of me, there was a silent prayer that I never uttered a word. There was a silent prayer. Now what I put in me, now what I put in him, it better work, or there's hell to pay. And boom, I go on my merry way. I know what it's like to crawl down the hallway, lip dragging drunk, gurgling. There was nobody standing around saying, hey, Big Daddy, give me another story. Lip dragging drunk, and I crawl in the back of that house in my daughter's bedroom, reach underneath her bed and pull out a Raggedy Ann piggy bank, and I bust it on the floor, and I separate the pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, because I'm not going to be taking nothing but silver when I go to the liquor store or the connections house. And that little girl's hiding in the closet watching me steal her money. She didn't say, Daddy, what are you doing? Please don't beat me and Mommy. She very slowly and gracefully slid out behind me, and being the very best father I could be, I gave her a break. I gave her a break, because you catch me in those pitiful, incomprehensible, demoralizing moments. I will inflict a pain on you that will overshadow what you caught me doing. And we live like that not a day or a week. We live like that for the next few years. I'm not talking about terrorism. I'm talking about alcoholism. Alcoholism. And I'm going to tell you, for one thing, this is a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, but I use narcotics. And the more narcotics I use, the darker and deeper into the evil world I became. So dark and evil that I didn't believe I could ever come out. And I tried everything I could imagine. I tried. And came to the end of my rope in December of 1975. I owed a lot of people money. I had a lot of things going on, and I made one last attempt to square the debt. And ultimately, I ended up in Taft, California. Taft, California. It isn't the end of the world, but it's close. And you could get a room there for $50 a year. It's an oil field town. And I went in there sometime near right before Christmas, 1975. Got a room and stayed in there, drunk, and hid out until May, first part of May of 1976. I crawled out of there, went back home one more time, crawled into that house, and soon as Simone came and found me, and I begged for help, and they'd been going down and on, and they had enough help and to support them to say no to me. Thank God they said no to me. I really could not get sober until my enablers were gone. One of the worst problems I had was that my family had money, and they just enabled the alcoholics until some of them died, some of them just went crazy. And I called a man in Alcoholics Anonymous, and they came and did a 12-step call, a classic 12-step call. Did a 12-step call on me, and took me and put me in a detox. Took them 4 hours to find a place because I'd been in and out and everybody knew me. They got me in a detox. It was a brand new detox. It started in St. Joseph's Hospital by Dr. Paul Oliger. He had a story in a big book. If you don't recognize the name, I'm not a name dropper, but that was my doctor. And when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And boy, I couldn't pull no stuff on that guy. He read my mail. And they locked me up in there and detoxed me. Detox. I don't ever want to detox again. Ever. I'd take 3 steps and laugh and 3 steps and cry. It was the most, and 11 days in there, I detoxed again. I don't want to detox again. And finally, I got a little breather. And it was just a detox. It wasn't a fancy place or anything. Dr. Paul came and got me, and had his wife Max and some people there, and they took Sue to Al-Anon. And the guy that 12-stepped me had told Sue she needed to go to Al-Anon, and the kid would go to Alateen. And we started this journey. And I had problems. I had waves of problems. I had lots of problems. And I kind of liked it in detox. I stayed in there an extra month just simply because the people that were looking to kill me were not going to come into that detox and get me for fear they might get infected by what we had in there. So it was a good place to hide out. And I was hiding out in there. Finally, I had to get out of there. And I got a sponsor. I had to have a sponsor in order to get out of there. I had to do the steps. I had to write my 4 steps. So I wrote from age 0 till 12. And that's as far as I could go. And they let me out. And they had a guy come over there, a little guy, a little short guy, crazy as a loon. And his name was Ron. Rotten Ron was his name. Rotten Ron. And he was rotten. He'd been married like 7 to 9 times, and he married one woman 5 times. His sponsor finally told him, leave her alone for a month and see what happens. And she married another guy. Come over there, and he said, I'm your sponsor. I said, what's that, a friend? He said, no, if you want a friend, get a dog. Oh, my dog hates me. He said, well, so do I. I said, well, that's good. I hate everybody. I don't tell me I love him and I hate her. If you can't do no better than that, get out of the hate business. I hate everybody equal. He said, good, we'll have fun. I'll come and get you. So the last day in that detox, you had 39 of us in this detox, men or women. They put us in a circle, and they went around the circle, and they let everybody take each other's inventory. And they started on my left. Everybody said I was a good old boy, but I was going to drink just as soon as I got out of there. Because people asked me, how you doing? I said, fine, I'm going to drink as soon as I get out of here. Said, you need to pray and get some spiritual relief. I'd like to have a bottle of whiskey that'll give me some spiritual relief. That's the way I talk. I've been drinking for 22 years. You don't just stop and not want it. I don't. Not my kind of alcoholic. You take it away and lock me up in some place. I still want it. And I told people I want it. But God, in his mysterious ways, had 38 people say that I was going to get drunk as soon as I got out. They gave me my first AA resentment. I stayed sober for the first year and a half just on the fact that 38 people said I was going to get drunk. Guess what? I'm the only one out of 39. I'm the only one still alive. I'm the only one still sober. So screw the vote. Yeah. I don't have to have the vote. And this ain't a popularity contest. I ain't come here to be Mr. Popular. Come here to get sober. Get clean. And my sponsor come and got me. He had an old box van. He come and got me in this old van. And he said, he had milk crates in the back. He said, grab a crate. And there was a bunch of us in there, a bunch of hamburgers in there. He had one guy about 390 pounds sitting on a milk crate. I got my crate, and I was sitting in the back. Away we go. He's going to take us around and drop us off where we live, whatever. Away we go down the street, and he'd hit a light, and we'd all slide to the front. And then he'd take off, and we'd all slide to the back. Remember one time we slid all the way to the front. I slid up between the captain's chairs. He had another guy there, an old-timer with 3 years. And I remember I slid up there and banged on the dash, and I said, I killed a man with my bare hands. You realize that? And he took off, and I slid back there, and this 390-pound guy fell on top of me, and I was crying. You're abusing us. They didn't care. If you wanted out, they'd pull over. Got home. He said, I'll go in there and don't tell her what's wrong with her. I said, if I don't tell her what's wrong with her, who's going to tell her what's wrong? Somebody's got to tell her what's wrong. He said, it's not going to be you. Go in there and shut your mouth, and I'll come back and get you. So I went in there, knocked on the door. I said, I got to go to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous every day for the rest of my life. What are you going to do? She said, well, I've been going down and on. The kid's going down a teen, the dog's going down a dog, and the cat's going down a cat, and we've released you. So I went in and sat down. Pretty soon, here he was. Got me in that van. We go to a meeting. Got all these newcomers in the meeting. We go to a meeting in California. They make you stand up. So me and all these guys would stand up. And he'd be, my sponsor sponsored all those, Rotten Ron. He'd be down there laughing because he had more newcomers than residents. a couple of them, we had to stop and get them a wine bottle, so that they could really be new. And he took me to this meeting. I was at this meeting on Sunday morning, and it was a big meeting. And they said, "You're the secretary." I said, "I am." "What does that mean?" He said, "We'll show you. You're the secretary." So I'm standing there, and the first thing I noticed was that they didn't have enough money in the collection to buy a cake every week. So next week I had my friend, we made a plaster Paris cake, a whole bunch of holes to stick the candles. We saved the money right away. They weren't happy about it, but we started saving money. I was standing there, minding my own business. People were hugging me. I said, "What are you hugging me? How come you're hugging me? Let go of me." And I said, "Oh, when we hug, God's in the midst, and it flows, love flows." I said, "You better let go of me or I'm going to hurt you." I had a gun in my boot, one boot, and a knife in the other. I pulled my gun out one day, and some guy was lipping off. I pulled my gun out, and some old-timer grabbed that gun, and he said, "Your gun's not welcome. Go put it in your car and come back in here." Okay, whatever you say. I'm standing there, and all of a sudden there's this guy standing next to me. Funny-looking guy. He wasn't short enough to be a midget or tall enough to be a man. Had a welder's hat pulled down over one ear, and had a pair of thongs on, and he'd painted his feet black like he had socks on. I seen him in the meeting the night before. He was the treasurer, and he stood up and said, "I stole all the money, and I ain't paying it back." And they said, "You got to keep that commitment till you get it right." Here he is standing next to me. I said, "What do you want?" He said, "Will you be my sponsor?" Oh, man, I know I really made God mad. I went over to my sponsor. I said, "See that guy over there?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "He just asked me to be his sponsor." And my sponsor said, "Yeah, I know. I sent him over." "Did you go back over and tell him you'd be his sponsor?" I didn't argue with my sponsor. If you argue with my sponsor, he'll spit all over you, and the little vein in his forehead will pulsate, and he just goes crazy on you. You don't argue with a sponsor. Have somebody to help you, and then argue with him. I went back over that guy. I said, "I'll be your sponsor. What do you want to do?" He said, "I need a ride home." Well, I was sober long enough to have an AA car. I don't know if you guys have an AA car, but out there we had an AA car. I had a Mark IV Lincoln. Had 104,000 miles on it. The license plate said AA car. You want to know how I'm doing? Look at my car. 2.5 years sober. I'm doing fine. Fine. I'm dying inside. I've worked the steps. I've practiced traditions, set up the chairs, cleaned the coffee cups. I've done everything. I'm fine. Bleeding a little out of my various openings in my body. Sober and crazy. Soberish. Doctor looked at my fingernails. He said, "There's something wrong. You don't have no color in your fingernails." They took me down and put me in intensive care, and Sue come down to see me. The doctor said, "You know, we had to put 9 pints of blood back in that guy." She said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah. If he'd have sneezed, he'd had brain damage." And she said, "How would we have known the difference?" So this guy wants to ride home. I said, "You go out that door, I'll go out this door, I'll meet you at the car." And he said, "No, I'm going with you." He grabbed me by the arm, we're going out the door. 2 guys I know, the only 2 friends I got. And ding-a-ling, he says, "Look here, Keith's my sponsor." And I said, "Don't tell people I'm your sponsor." And they looked at us and said, "Boy, it's going to be fun to watch you 2 grow." Got him in the car. He started talking crazy stuff to me. And then he'd say, "You ever do anything like that?" And I said, "Yeah, I did some things like that." He said, "Wow, what?" And I tell him, he said, "Oh, you're sick." He said, "We need to go to a meeting." I said, "We're going to a meeting. I'll take you home. I'll come back and get you." I go home and take him. So I'll be back and get you in a little bit. I go back and get him, and he just looked like he stood inside the door. So, "I want you to comb your hair." He said, "I did, really." I said, "How come you put shoe polish on your feet?" He said, "I don't like doing laundry." When you get in the car, he started talking more sick stuff. And then he'd say, "You ever do anything like that?" I said, "Yeah, I did some stuff like that." I'd tell him some of my stuff that I wasn't going to tell. I'd already done a 4th and 5th step with my sponsor, but things were coming up, you know. And you can't let them one-up you. One time I picked him up, and he said, "I know what you told me last night had to be lies." I said, how you know that? He said, because it's physically impossible to do what you said you did. I tried it. I took him to hear Chuck Chamberlain. We went to hear Chuck Chamberlain, a great spiritual speaker. We sit right on the front row. Chuck laid it out for us. We go out and get in my car. He looks at me and he said, we need a miracle. I said, really? What are you talking about? No, I mean, we need a sign. Like a burning bush or parting the water or something. I'm thinking if I had some lighter fluid, I'd torch the hedge over here. Best I could do is I had a 45 in the glove box. I got her out and run around in it and put it upside his head. And I said, tell you what, you pray. I'm going to count to 10. And if I don't have a floating resentment and decide to pop a cap on you, you've just done step 3. Counted away. Wow. I threw the old gun back in the glove box. He jumped out of my car, ran back in that meeting hall where my sponsor was, and rat-fanked on me. Told my sponsor, he showed him that ring on the side of his head and said, I put a gun up there. Made him do step 3, and my sponsor said, yeah, I know. Ain't he spiritual? You got to know some of the bent fenders we got. Yeah, we got them. Anyway, that guy showed up at my house, and he was going to do a 4-step, and he hadn't done nothing. He hadn't written on anything. I said, you're supposed to write this. He told me a pen. He said, I can't write. I'll talk and you write. He started talking, and I started writing. And he said, you ever do anything? And I thought, there's a couple of things I forgot to tell anybody. He can't read, so I'll just put some of my stuff in his. When God sends the dumpster, put your trash in it. First thing, he jumped up and kissed me on the cheek, said, I love you, and run out in his car, and down the road he went. But standing in my front yard, it went from the head to the heart. It went from the head to the heart. That's the magic of Alcoholics Anonymous. Don't look for something that ain't here. Don't look for something that ain't here. It's one alcoholic helping another alcoholic. I started helping those alcoholics, and I've been doing it ever since. My whole life was devoted to that, and every minute of my life that I didn't have to spend earning a living, taking care of my family, I've devoted to that. I've listened to over 1,200 fifth steps. And most of them I don't even know where they are, but I know where I am. I started going into penitentiaries when I had 6 months sober, and I've been going into institutions. I'm cleared in 6 different states, and I go into institutions all the time, and so does Sue. And we've had commitments. We have panels. We get other people to go on the panels. We don't just do it ourselves, but for over 30 years, we just had a celebration for a California Institution of Women. We've had a panel in there, and Sue and I was given credit for, a long, long time of service. And that's the humility of it. I can come out here on Saturday night and do these things. It's kind of nice on Saturday night to be the Saturday night speaker. But I better be somewhere in a penitentiary, in a step house. I go to Charlie Street and various step houses during the week. And I'm just an alcoholic. And I put myself in the seat. I've been able to get a job. And I was able to pay all that money back. I was able to return the goods. And I was able to make financial amends. It took me 14 years to make my financial amends. And I didn't do it because I'm a good guy. I didn't do it because I wanted to. It's hard to make that kind of pay $250,000 back. You don't have nothing to show for it. But I did because I wanted to stay sober. And the one thing that happened was because I worked hard enough to make that financial amends. By the time I had that financial amends made, I was making so much money more than if I'd have just sat on my duff and sloughed it off. I ended up working 25 years for Chevron and in the oil field business, worked in Chevron research. I took a package. In 1984, I went to work for Boeing Aircraft. I worked for Boeing Aircraft. In 1999, I took a package Boeing Aircraft and retired, and have insurance. I have insurance for my family. I take care of my family. People want to talk about living amends. Provide insurance for your family, for your loved ones. I stayed with Sue. I took care of Sue, and I was there to take care of her when she had physical problems. I took care of my daughter. My daughter grew up in that insanity. And it was very violent, very violent. People died, people got hurt, and daughter grew up in that. And it didn't hurt her. I'll tell you what it did. It was boot camp. It didn't hurt our daughter a bit to grow up in that. She survived. She's a survivor, and she's a good kid. And she grew up in that insane environment, and she came out of there as a survivor. And she wanted to be a model, and she wasn't afraid to go around the world and countries she couldn't speak the language. She was a model, and she survived and came home with a new portfolio. She didn't let the disease get her down. There is no spot where God is not. And when she came to this program, the only thing she had left was her God. And she had a dream beyond it where other people feared to go. And she wanted to be a model. And she became a model. And she became a wife and a mother and has 2 little girls. A good kid. You know, people talk about all their kids that die and have the disease of alcoholism and all this. Don't forget the good kids. There's some good kids out there that are doing good, baby. Don't forget the good kids. I hear people say, I'll go stand in line in the penitentiary, you see little Johnny. I said, what about the other 2 kids? Oh, well, they're in college. They're doing fine. Don't forget to mention them. See, our kid was a good kid, and she fought for everything she had, and she stands on that today. She's got 37 years in the program. She sponsors about 20 women that she's sponsored for over 20, 25 years. She married an Italian guy. I said, don't go over there and have a bunch of kids and bring them foreigners home. I ain't raising them. She went over there and married this little chubby mafioso. He's a good guy. He's not a dope fiend or an alcoholic. He works. Takes care of the kids. And once a year, we go to Italy, and his family is the Bertolottos. They're old Italian family. Once a year, we go over there, and I get an audience with the in-laws, and I just simply go in and say, thank you for loving my little girl as though she were yours. And they say, very good, now move on. And I do. and that's all I want. I mean, what more could you want for your kid but to be happy? See? Because of this program. Because we made her go to Alateen. If I'm going to AA, you're going to Alateen, kid. Shut up. You're going to Al-Anon. Well, violence was in my voice, but not my actions, and I forced them, and they were able to be intimidated to do the next right thing. I hate it when people say, I'm not going to take my kid to Alateen. I've heard them enough. Come on. Singleness of purpose, they get it in the Alateen room. One kid helping another. When that kid comes to the front door as a newcomer, who's going to come out and meet that kid? Another kid. My daughter said, they don't talk about nothing but sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So, well, that's the way it was at the house, so you're familiar with that. You know, one of the greatest things, the God-given tools, you know, there has to be a God in my life. I don't debate it. I don't talk about it much. It's just there. I defy textbook psychology, where I've come from to where I am today. And, you know, the longer I stayed sober, the more creative I've been. The longer I've stayed sober, the more happier I've been, the more joyful I've been, the more loving I've been, the more considerate I've been, and the more prosperity I've had. I didn't come here to turn it off. I came here to turn it on. I came here to live life. I came here to be a part of life. And I come out of the gutter, and that wasn't where my family wanted me to be, but it's where I took me. I've been involved in, I'm a mechanical type person. I got a degree in metallurgy and engineering design, but I always liked cars and bikes, and I've worked on motorcycles for over 50 years, and besides working for major corporations, well, I've had a motorcycle shop for over 50 years. It's been a very successful one. I've built motorcycles for many of the 1%er gang people, and I built something they can rely on and be a part of. I'm trustworthy, and I've got these young kids that had all these bones in their ears and knots in their nose and devil spikes and fell out of school at early age, and get them over to my shop and get all their black lights and all their crazy music, and I build a motorcycle, and we take it to a motorcycle show, and they put all that crap that they had when they were loaded around that motorcycle, and they come home with a trophy this big. And I was talking, the kid that did step 1, 2, and 3, he said, "You used to play dog on the roof in softball." I said, "Yeah." Well, they got tired of getting beat, so they came over and got one of my motorcycles and took it and won a trophy. Karen's been to our place, and there's just a huge room full of trophies that these young addicts and alcoholics have built. There's over 25 young men who sobered up under 18 years old that have over 25 years of sobriety in my home group. Many of them had no vocation, and they came around, and we'd give them jobs and give them little things to do so that they could work with their hands. And from that, they were able to get jobs with Boeing aircraft and various other things. Some of the guys, Reuben, and some of the guys are in advertising, very creative in advertising. The greatest gift of sponsorship is to take a newcomer and watch God's given talent develop in that human being, to nurture the God-given talent of a newcomer. Every human being has a God-given talent. And the most important part of sponsorship for me is not to cling on somebody or claim them or anything like that. It's just to get the crap out of the way and then nurture their creativity, nurture their imagination, nurture their life, and nurture their brain cells back to something that is beautiful, that is a God gift to this earth. To take a little alcoholic and turn him into something that was worthless and helpless and hopeless, and let them stand tall, be claimed for what they are, to be a human being, to claim their rights, to be a child of God. What a greater thing. You know, I have so many God stories in my life that allow me to, the sun shines on the inside. And because of that, I can be a good husband, I can be a good father, a good grandpa, and a good member of the community. God bless you and thank you.